WNST segment we've been waiting for. Ed Frankovic and I have been friends a long, long time. We've been doing radio together a long, long time. He's been our Capitals insider for about a decade now, but has been around the team since the 1980s. Ed, I don't know when that puck went in the back of the net into the evening, and certainly earlier on Monday night than maybe we would have believed in double and triple overtimes as we've seen in the past. Ovechkin to Kuznetsov into the back of the net. There's a pinch-me moment, I think, that any Caps fan would have in regard to that. I know many of us old schoolers remember the Rod Langway shot. We remember these sort of seminal goals that do things. But Monday night, Game 6, Pittsburgh, that's pretty special, Ed.
Yeah, Ness, this is definitely up there with the Dale Hunter goal in 1988 to finally beat the Flyers and get that 3-1 monkey off their back, and then Joey Juneau's goal in 1998 that put them in the Stanley Cup Finals in 98. Because this is the big one for the Ovechkin era. They had not gotten into the third round. Coach Trotz had not gotten into the third round. They carried this monkey on their backs for years and years and years. And to do it the way they did it was really something special. 5 rookies in the lineup against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. Wow, what a night. Ding dong, the witch is dead. And when I mean the witch, I'm talking about this third-round curse. It is dead.
Well, it's not just the Penguins, right? But for this to have come against the Penguins instead of the Columbus Blue Jackets or even the Tampa Lightning, who they've scuffled with in the past and they will see again this week, there was something about the Pittsburgh Penguins being in the way. No disrespect to the Devils or the Rangers or the Islanders or any other team. The Canadians that have beaten the Ravens, the Capitals over the course of the last 10 years during the Ovechkin era. I would say, cautiously optimistic is what you've been saying about me. They've always been good enough to win. This hasn't been, it's been some bad luck. It's been a little curse. It's been a bounce of the puck. All of those things that have happened. But for this series and this week, they were the better team this week. They really were.
I think the switch flipped, Ness, after the second period of Game 5 because I thought the Capitals really had the mojo in the series. Were really taking it over in Games 2 and 3, and then the Tom Wilson suspension happened. And that really, really took the team back. They really got stunned by that 3 games. It was really a blow to the team. They played a very poor Game 4. And Game 5 did not look good at all. They easily could have been down 6-2 after 2 periods if not for Braden Holtby. And then Letang makes that mistake early in period 3, and Kuznetsov goes in like Moses had parted the Red Sea and scores on Murray, and everything changed. The whole series changed at that point. The Capitals were the better team from then on. I think they won. You can go back and look. They've won every period since that start of that third period in Game 5, and a team of 5 rookies took down the 2-time defending champs. They did this without Nicholas Backstrom, who you can make the case he's their best player. But you talk about luck, and we talked about all year goaltending. I kept saying I want 2012 Braden Holtby. Well, the Capitals got 2012 Braden Holtby, and let's hope it's 2018 Braden Holtby that takes them all the way. And the other thing is you need some bounces. And Kuhnhackl hits the post in overtime. That shot's 1 inch to the right, and it's in the net, and we're playing a Game 7. So you need the bounces. You need good goaltending, but more importantly, they found a way to play better. Their top center goes out, and guys stepped up. And we've talked about Kuznetsov all year, and he was the guy who delivered in Games 5 and 6 for them.
Ed Frankovic can be found at Ed Frankovic on Twitter, and of course all of our WNST programming brought to you by our friends at Howard Bank, a relentless commitment to being the best at every single thing they do. Branches throughout Baltimore, throughout Maryland. I'm sipping from my Howard Bank cup this morning on our YouTube WNSTV channel as well as our Facebook Live. Also brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club. We're getting down to Preakness next weekend. I was down to Laurel over the weekend. Had a great time down there. They've really done a nice job down at Laurel. If you haven't been down there, you're going to be seeing Old Hilltop the next couple of weeks. We're going to have a lot of racing coverage here, a lot of hockey coverage around here. We're going to be like an Eddie Olczyk network around here. The Maryland Jockey Club entries now on the front of WNST.net to get you ready for Hi-Ho Pimlico. I get to do that for 2 more weeks. Also in our morning newspaper each and every morning. That's brought to you by Planet Fitness as well. Cole Roofing, we all felt that March wind blow in a couple of of months ago, maybe you haven't assessed that damage up on your corporate or commercial roof space, Cole Roofing is there to do that. They helped me with a roofing problem this winter. They can help you as well. Pfister Energy also can show you how to make some money off your roof by turning it into a green and solar space. Cole Roofing and Pfister Energy are partners as well. Shout out to our friends at Box Hill Pizzeria. The best crab cakes in Arthur County can now be shipped anywhere. Man, it's May. Crab cake season is here. They've been remodeling Box Hill Pizzeria up in Abingdon. We'll be telling you more about that. Go to boxhillpizzeria.com. If you see Tommy or Chris, tell them we said hello. Ed, this whole thing with the Penguins and slaying the dragon and beating the giant and all that stuff, it would have been enough to just do it, but to do it without Burakovsky, to do it primarily without Wilson after the stupid penalty he took a couple days ago, and then the Backstrom situation in Game 6, it must be discussed that you talk about slaying the giant. They did it without 3 of their top 8 forwards, I would say, right?
Top 6. 3 of their top 6 for sure. All 3 of those guys playing the top 2 lines, and just guys like you got Verona really stepped up, a rookie. You had Travis Boyd and Nathan Walker played their very first playoff games, very first NHL playoff games in Game 6. And boy, Nathan Walker, what a lot of energy he showed. And he was a guy that I really liked last training camp and thought he really earned a spot on the roster. They just couldn't find a way to get him in early in the year. And,
that's been a problem for young players around here because they have so much talent here, right? Like that Hershey train here is different when you got a team that's 110 points every year, right?
Right. I mean, when you have Justin Williams and Daniel Winnick and all these guys that you're paying more money to are veterans, those were the guys who were playing above them.
But if you're in the Buffalo Sabres organization, you've been in the show for a year and a half at this point, right?
Right, exactly. And a guy like Chandler Stevenson, here's a guy who did make the roster coming out of training camp and went back down to Hershey, worked his butt off. Walker did the same thing, but Stevenson's been a major story this year to just go from being sent down to any team in the league could have had this guy last October, and Chandler went down there and he worked his butt off. He's a fast player. Nathan Walker's a fast player. Christian Jou's another defenseman, fast on the back end. Remember the Capitals went out and got Kevin Shattenkirk last year. They had all that dilemma about who do they play on defense, and they went with 7D, and it just didn't work out. As I wrote at WNST.net, Trotzy told us when we were out at Michael's Cafe there in March, he said, last year I would try and move guys around, and I get pushback from some of the players. And I noted that what he said to me, and then he said, but this year I haven't had that. I think that speaks a lot to the way the team bonded and the way they didn't care about themselves, they cared about the team. And Trotzy said to us in Carroll County, and I wrote this at WNST.net. I hope people go out and read my story because I try to capture the spirit of the victory of the Penguins out at WNST.net. Trotzy said, in 2017, when you and I were sitting there talking about drinking Tom Ebright champagne and all that, like we've done several years now, he said, this might not be our best team. We don't know what will be our best team. We'll find out in the spring. And in 2017, it was not their best team. 2018, this is their best team, at least under Barry Trotz. And it was just a group that bonded together, stuck to a game plan of not giving up odd man rushes. They only took 1 penalty. It was imperative that they stay out of the box because Pittsburgh scored 2 of their 3 goals in Game 5 on the power play. They just did everything the coaches asked of them, and these young guys had speed and energy, and that's what you needed to finally take down a Pittsburgh team that really looked tired.
Ed Frankovic can be found at Ed Frankovic on Twitter and Ed at WNST.net. Getting ready now for the Tampa Lightning. Before I even go there, the whole fire Trotz thing, and I know you've had to sort of carry the water for that movement out on the web. 6-7 weeks ago, the team was struggling. A lot of call for Trotz's head, and now he winds up winning and beating the Penguins without Burakovsky, without Wilson, without Backstrom, and quite frankly, 3 weeks ago when he decided Grubauer was going to be the guy to start against Columbus, boy, things have changed a lot here over the last month, as they always do for a successful team in the Stanley Cup run, because the teams that hang around have had some bad fortune usually. You don't win all these games 3-0 in 4-game series. That's not the way this works.
The playoffs are a grind, and every game is ultra close. And my support of Trotz goes back to I've known the guy since he's been around the league. Came into the league, cut his teeth. Like you've known him 30 years, I've known him 30 years. He's a hardworking guy, and it's not like they lost any scrub teams. Let's talk about that. They lost to the Rangers, who were favored against the Caps in 2015, and then they got beat by the Penguins. Sure, the Caps were the President's Trophy winners, but things change when you go from the regular season to the playoffs, and there was no shame in losing to the Penguins, especially when they went on to win 2 cups. So a lot of people just felt like it was Trotz's fault and he couldn't get it done. And at the end of the day, you need good goaltending and you need some bounces. And that's what they got this spring. And they started with Grubauer. And again, people put all the lineup decisions on the coach. And when we had the coach out of Michael's Cafe back in March, he and I talked through those lineup decisions. The 7D last year, that was not totally a Trotz decision. They were gonna bring. They knew they had to get Carl Osner back in the lineup. Nate Schmidt was not coming out. Coach Trotz was adamant about that with me. He says I was not taking Schmidt out. The odd guy out was.
By the way, Schmidt's still playing hockey. By the way, I saw him pop up after Vegas won the other night. I'm like, hey, look at Nate Schmidt. He's in the Western Conference Finals. I wonder whether the Caps are going to get there too, right?
Yeah, he's a number 1 D out there, Ness. But Trotz talked about Reardon didn't want to take Orpik out. He has a very special relationship with Orpik. Orpik, the big reason Orpik is here is because of Todd Reardon. And Trotz was like, okay, we'll go. I guess we'll go with 7D. Brett Connolly was not playing well in the 2017 playoffs. He hadn't figured it out yet, and I got to give that guy big props because he's been a totally different player these playoffs. Again, you go down the roster, the guys have worked their butts off to become better players, and that reflects on the coaching staff. Coach Trotz, Lane Lambert, Todd Reardon, Scott Murray, and Blaine Forsythe. These guys have done a great job. It's a very good staff, and you need goaltending and a bounce in the playoffs. So I really like the job Brian McClellan done. Remember, we carried the torch for that last summer when everyone was like, woe is me, we lost all these guys. And you know what? I kept saying the Penguins lost a bunch of guys, too. There was no Nick Bonino or Matt Cullen or Marc-Andre Fleury to beat them this year because the salary cap and the expansion draft changed the landscape in the league. There's a lot more balance, and any team can win it now of these final 5 left. So I think Trotz, now the onus is Trotz going to want to stay here? I would think he'd want to, given what he's seen with these young kids coming up and the way the veterans are still producing. And
you think he can lose in 5 games to Tampa and keep his job? I'm only asking that. I mean, I don't think they're going to lose in 5 games to Tampa, and we'll get to that.
They could lose. Let's be honest. They could lose in 5 to Tampa because Tampa is really good, and they're going to be the heavy favorites. And Backstrom's got a really bad right hand. We don't know the full details, but it's all picture, and it doesn't look good. The only good news there is the right hand is a lot easier for a lefty shot, and I played the game, and I've had hand injuries, and not at that level, these guys, but if the right hand is better than the left hand because you just need the right hand to stabilize the top of the stick. Now, he won't take face-offs, but if that thing's not a major fracture, he might be able to play through it and be able to play. But yeah, Tampa's going to be a very difficult opponent. They are super fast. They got a bunch of old Ranger guys that we've seen in the playoffs, and Ryan McDonough and Ryan Callahan and JT Miller and Dan Girardi. You add in Kucherov and Stamkos. I mean, they're loaded. They've got an incredible team. Tampa will be the favorites, but the game isn't played on paper. This is what I wrote at WNST.net after the win. I hope people go out and read it. The game is played on the ice, and the way these guys have bonded together, there's always a chance. The coaching's going to be very even. Barry Trotz and John Cooper are both very good coaches. It's going to come down to goaltending and the bounces. So, if the whole piece can keep it up, the Capitals have as good a chance as anybody.
Well, in the case of the Lightning, maybe you get lulled to sleep by them, and people around here aren't familiar with it. I've spent some time down in Tampa, and I was down there a couple years ago when we had our baseball tour, and they had been toured that year. That is a Bolts community down there. When you spend time down in Tampa, you feel like you get off the plane, it's going to be 85 degrees. How are they playing hockey inside of this rink? They have quietly, and I say quietly outside of the hockey community, shown that they're the best team in hockey this year, right?
Yeah, they're right there. I mean, you can make the case the Predators were, or in the West, and or Tampa in the East, and they've won a Stanley Cup. They won in 2004, and this group right there went to the finals against Chicago. I think it was 3 years ago before the Penguins won. And then they've been to the Western Conference Final again. 2 years ago, they had a 3-2 lead on Pittsburgh and couldn't close them out. So this team is experienced. They're hungry. it's going to be a heck of a series, and the Capitals need a few days off. We don't know the schedule yet. We're hearing Friday, but we'll find out. As you pointed out to me, James Taylor's playing Saturday, so it can't be Saturday down there. But that's a very good hockey team. That place is going to be rocking, and the Capitals are going to be the underdogs. But it's good to be the underdogs, I think. I mean, this is reminded me a little bit of the 2012 Ravens when they were the underdogs every game after the first one, and the Capitals were certainly the underdogs against the Penguins, and now they'll be underdogs against Tampa, a great team. So this is going to be Capitals having to go in and slay the Lightning like the Ravens did the New England Patriots. So let's get it on. Let's get some rest. Tom Wilson's certainly going to be rested, so that'll be a factor. The key is going to be Backstrom's hand, but they've shown they can step up. They've got guys that can step up and play when needed.
He is Ed Frankovic. You can find him at Ed Frankovic on Twitter as well as Ed at WNST.net. Eddie, rest up. I mean, we'll get back after this before the week is over, and obviously this is going to be a great week for me to sit around and talk to all of my hockey friends this week about the upcoming semifinals, let's say Eastern Conference Finals, that will be played in Tampa this weekend. Caps trying to get healthy. And I think the last thing for this is trying to emotionally put this thing into check and say, all right, we're only halfway there. Not many of these guys have had this kind of experience. Certainly for Ovechkin, this is as far as he's been. For Trotz, as far as he's been. There was a nice celebration in Pittsburgh on Monday, but I'm sure a full focus on what's at hand here, which is we didn't come all this way to lose in the finals in 5 games to the Tampa Lightning.
That's exactly what Braden Holtby said after the game. He says, this is nice. Says, but we're only halfway to where we need to be. And I think they realize that. They realize the opportunity in front of them, Ness, and they're not going to celebrate anything. They did their celebrating last night. As Trotty said, I'll have a beer or two, but now it's time to move on to Tampa. And you have no time to really sit and celebrate in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They are fortunate that the Predators forced the Game 7, and they're getting an extra day or two of rest because they're going to need it.
He is Ed Frankovic. You can go find him out on the internet or anywhere hockey is sold. I will be doing a ton of hockey this week, certainly a ton of horse racing next week in advance, and I'll track down Eddie Olczyk before it's all over with as well as we wait out the Game 7 on the western side and get ready for Game 1 on the eastern side, which will be down in Tampa this week. The Caps will bring it home next week for Games 3 and 4 during the midweek. All of that up at WNST.net. All of our coverage brought to you by our friends at Fremont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. You need the right lender, and we had head coach Barry Trotz out. Fremont Mortgage sponsors all of our Give a Spit swabbings, and of course we swabbed that night for There Goes My Hero and the Bone Marrow Registry out at Michael's Cafe, and that was fantastic. Find them at FremontMortgage.com, buying, selling, just in the market to learn a little bit. They do great work out there. Also, King Discount Liquors, lottery beer, booze, and the best prices in Baltimore. Get on out to Rosedale, give the King a ring. There is a rumor that I'll be appearing in some of the Wayne's World style commercials that we put together with Johnny Bev and those guys, and I might be drinking a little bit more here as we get up on Preakness and we get up on Capitals playing on Preakness weekend. It's going to be awesome. The Maryland Jockey Club is there. The front page of our WNST website has the entries for Pimlico this week as well as for next weekend in the Preakness and the Pink Festival, the Black Eyed Susan. I spent the weekend down at Laurel on Saturday with my wife for the Kentucky Derby. Justify, Bob Baffert coming to town next week. It's going to be a lot of horse racing around here. We are excited about the Preakness. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live right here on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. And if you miss it, you can find it all in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. Listen live where you want, when you want, podcasts like the kids are doing these days. It is the buyatoyota.com audio vault. Any breaking news happens first on your mobile device. Dennis Colossus will be here on Friday this week, not Thursday. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford Security Boulevard. And Dennis has moved his day by a day this week, so you'll hear him from 3 until 5 on Friday. And we got plenty of Orioles, plenty of this Joe Flacco, Lamar Jackson stuff, getting ready for the Caps, getting ready for the Preakness. We're mixing it up around here, trying to fix the Orioles as well. I have delusions of grandeur, don't you know? We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.